Today's episode of Northern Lights is presented by North Star Law Group, a trusted partner for small businesses in Minnesota's legal cannabis industry. Whether you've already applied for a license or just getting started, attorney Jen Riza and her team can help you build a compliant business, identify and navigate risks, put together an application, and keep you informed about the ever-changing Minnesota cannabis landscape. Are you ready to add North Star to your team? Visit northstarlaw.com/cannabis and let North Star Law Group guide you through confidently opening your doors. Again, that's northstarlaw.com/cannabis. Are you a social equity applicant trying to save money on LED grow lights? Then here's some good news for you. You could get up to 75% off your lighting project, covered entirely by rebates, when you team up with a local nonprofit, Center for Energy and Environment. Since 2000, CEE has provided free energy consulting to Xcel Energy customers throughout Minnesota. Their team of lighting experts will help you get the highest rebates possible and take care of the paperwork so you don't have to. Starting a grow operation can be overwhelming, so take advantage of this free support from CEE. Go to mncee.org/GrowLED to sign up for your free consultation and find out how much you can save with lighting rebates. Again, that's mncee.org/GrowLED. Go get signed up today. And we're back. Welcome to another episode of Northern Lights. I'm your host, Tanner, joined today by Steve and Jordan. Hey there, guys.
Hey, Jordan. Hey, Tanner. How you guys doing?
Doing well.
Hey, fellas. What's going on?
Another good week. Bad here at the Dabbler Depot. Happy to be doing another episode of Northern Lights.
We're seeding. We're session.
We're seeding. We're session. We got a big episode today. We got some news we're going to be talking about, some funny stories, some not so funny stories. A little bit later, we got a great interview with Curtis White. Curtis White. People definitely should listen through all the way to that interview. It's a really good one.
Yeah, shout out to Double Up Wholesale. Yeah.
Cool hearing a little bit more about that back end of the industry that keeps everything running. And then a little bit later in the show, we're going to be doing some more Tanner's Chirp tasting. We got some jars that we're excited to share with you. And then at the end, of course, we got our high note. But how's your week been, guys? I mean, it's another week, another Friday. We're back here at the Seed and Sesh. How's it been?
Man, I've been enjoying it. I've been living with it, living with the weather, living with the baby.
Yeah.
Sleeping more.
Mm-hmm. Is she driving yet?
I've been going from like 12 like midnight to 8. Yeah, it's been good. I've been trying to keep a balance. Last night we went outside around the sunset and just felt it outside. It was nice.
That's really cool.
Yeah, we went to Target today. Just doing regular dad stuff.
Has she experienced her first snowfall yet? Like, has that been something that...
No.
Yeah.
I mean, she's like, 3 weeks old?
I heard it's going to snow soon.
Yeah.
How old is she? Like
She'll be a month.
Yeah.
She's a month old. Hey.
Wow.
Happy 1 month, baby. Well done.
Yeah, she had her month birthday yesterday.
There we go. That's pretty cool. Well, congrats. Jordan, how's your week been?
It's been, all things considered. We keep the smile on. We keep the chin up. It's going. It's going 1 foot in front of the other. That's my mantra. It's a low bar, but it's my bar, fellas.
There we go. I like it. Well, so last week was our politics heavy episode. We talked almost exclusively about cannabis politics the entire time. Important topics, especially post-election. This week we're sort of stepping a little bit back from that, not because it's not important, but just because we've got a lot of other news that we need to address that's been going on in the industry. So let's jump right into it, shall we?
Do you want to start in Minneapolis or St. Paul?
I guess let's start in Minneapolis. That's the one that I have been looking at. So a news story that people have probably heard of by the time that this episode is coming out. You might have heard of Zaza Dispensary. You might have seen their advertisements
storefront
around. Yeah. All over the place. They were pretty proudly and openly selling flower.
For like 2 years?
Yeah, right through their retail stores. And
allegedly.
Oh yeah, let's before we start digging into this news story, we should say the information that we're going to be sharing today is coming from a filing from the Minnesota Office of Cannabis Management. This is all alleged. Well, of course, the OCM looks different than police officers. Anytime there's government power being used, we want to make sure we're not assuming that people have broken the law. So everything that we're talking about today comes with that big asterisk of, according to the OCM, this is what happened. But we've got both of their filings here, a good 40 pages worth of paper. And I have to tell you about what happened at Zaza. So we're going to jump right in. For those of you following along at home, we are going to be starting on page 4. Now, back earlier this year, a long time ago, on August 16th, just about 2 months ago, the OCM came to inspect Zaza on Grand Avenue.
That was right around the time, just right before we started getting together in Modest.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we were right on our summer hiatus. I was just back in town, but OCM was busy at work. So they showed up. The inspector identified themselves and requested to be let in. And almost like out of a movie, the employee said, "Oh, yeah, that's fine, but I'll be right back." Again, all according to this document. The employee was then gone for a few minutes. During that time, the inspector observed the employee going into the office of the rear part of the showroom. The employee then let the inspector in. However, as the inspector entered the showroom, he saw, and I'm quoting directly here, he saw a female come out of the office and exit the building via a rear door. The female was carrying a bag and stated out loud that she was, quote, going to make a phone call, end quote. Based upon this, Inspector Lee suspected that the employee was removing illegal cannabinoid products from the store to avoid inspection.
100%.
What do you guys think about that? Do you think that that's pretty spot on?
This sounds like some Looney Tunes shit. Like the thief with the little black thing across their eyes with like the bag over their shoulder, just like out of the back door. It just feels like in this 1930s cartoon caper.
In this
Very
market,
so.
It really stands out. In the New York market, there's a lot of Zaza Lake Street cannabis moving around, So in Minnesota, it's shocking, and it's the largest case that I've seen the OCM put together. And what's at hand is the cost of destroying it.
Oh, yeah.
And so, and they'd be tasked with a lot of costs associated with this claim.
So now, OCM, when they were doing the inspections, they thought it was pretty suspicious that people were leaving out at the backside. So what they did is they stationed an inspector at the back of the door when they came back on September 6th, just to ensure that nobody left with illicit product. And alas, backpacks and bags were found with a bunch of illicit product. Shout out to our friends at Beeswax, whose name appears a lot in this report for, man, they said legal product, but the OCM disagrees that apparently a 5.5 gram vape card is not legally compliant in Minnesota these days. Who knew? My favorite line from this is, for those following along at home, page 6. While some embargoed flower possessed certificates of analysis suggesting compliance, suggesting they were below 0.3% THC, testing of the flower revealed THC levels far exceeding the legal limit.
And that's times the 0.3 legal limit.
Yeah, they were found with ranging upwards to 20% THC, which is, if I do my math right, above 0.3%. That's a decent amount above the legal limit for what hemp flower can have here in Minnesota.
And not that they've been hiding that product. You see beeswax products in certain markets all over the state. You see it at trade shows. They're unabashed. And so, this is a step in regulation for beeswax to be called out here and embargoed. My thoughts are, now if that product is seen anywhere else, it has to be pulled off the shelf.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so if you have those beeswax products on your shelf, if you're someone listening and thinking like, man, Juicy Kush vapes, I carry Juicy Kush vapes with HHCO, THCP, Delta 8, and Pineapple Express terpenes. Maybe I shouldn't sell those.
I changed my answer.
You're right. Don't sell those.
Yeah, I changed my answer. I'm sorry. Pineapple Express terpenes.
All right, there we go.
Not to cut you off.
No.
This is blatant. This is blatantly against legal limits.
Yeah. So OCM here is not suing to shut down the store. It's not suing to put people into jail. It's just suing to say these products that we've taken, the 50-some vape carts, the containers of pre-rolls, of flour, of Hawaiian haze, Bubba Kush, Glueberry, all things that's not hemp. They're just seeking to destroy about $20,000 worth of product.
Yeah, that's a sizable hit. Where we go from here, it feels like Minnesota is going to have a very regulated market. This is a standout case at this point in time. It's a large player. They have a Minneapolis location. They have a St. Paul location. They operate in similar ways from what I can understand. So
yeah, it's one of the first big cases of OCM going after someone who is blatantly ignoring the law and just trying to do whatever it is that they're looking to do here in Minnesota.
Yeah.
I mean, do we even want to include we got to show it. So we have a copy of Bloom magazine. Shout out to Bloom.
Yeah. Bloom magazine debut article.
Yep. Really excited. We opened it up. We busted it open, and main ad number 1 right inside is Zaza cannabis flower available. I don't know, man. They definitely do have a lot of legally compliant products that I see on the shelf, but sounds like a lot of stuff that is not as well.
Shout out to High North. They got the backspace. They're killing it. They do business on both sides of the state. If you want to be a cowboy and have success in the 25 milligram market, you have to play in the Wisconsin market.
Interesting. Yeah, so from here, Zaza has to respond within 20 days, so we'll continue to see sort of what they respond to. What do they have to say for having employees with backpacks found with product? I don't know. My favorite was when the inspectors showed up and said, hey, we're here to talk to this owner. They had no idea who that owner was. So lots of questions. In 20 days, do you think there will be a lottery? Oh, that's such a good question. All right, so let's set ourselves in time. So we're recording this November 15th, 45 days out from the end of the year.
November 35th. Will there be a lottery by November 35th?
No, unfortunately not.
No, probably
I
not.
think by then they will have scheduled a lottery.
Yeah, I like that bet.
And then I think we'll have it by December 20th.
12/20, bro.
12/20. All right, well, let's talk about some other news stories that's not just involving people getting caught with illicit product.
This was really interesting.
Yeah, so this came across my newsfeed just a couple days ago. We're always tracking, what cannabis consumers look like in America, what percentage of Americans they make up. And we can now say, according to Gallup polls, cannabis is officially more popular than smoking tobacco cigarettes.
Cannabis is up in women 17% compared to 11% in just data from 2023 to 2024.
Yep. Sizable increase.
Men and women. Men are more likely than women to report smoking.
Yeah. Those aged 18 to 34 were, sizably more likely to use it. 19% more likely.
Yeah. And now I fall into the 35 to 54 categories at 18%.
You got to bump up those numbers.
Wow. I'm here. No, I am. 18.1.
Yeah, but it's always cool to see that continual evolution. If you looked at the same study 20 years ago, cannabis would not be anywhere close to the numbers of tobacco consumption. But we've seen a total switch where tobacco has gone down in consumption rates, and cannabis, at least among those over 21, continue to go up across the country.
And we saw tobacco get ruined by capitalism and corporations and the downsides of how they were selling it. At this point, the MSOs are not winning. And so that is a differentiation. So as long as we keep it craft in markets as local as possible, we'll see growth. The alternative is widespread.
Yeah. And it shows that Minnesota is sort of right in line with the rest of the country. When Star Tribune, along with a bunch of other organizations, did that MN poll just a couple months ago, they found really similar numbers of consumption here in Minnesota. And so I think it just further confirms that there's a sizable chunk of us out there who are pretty regular cannabis consumers.
Trivia question, fun fact. How many people live in Minnesota?
Like at least 6.
Yes.
I was going to say at least 8, but yeah.
Sheesh.
Okay, but you're okay.
I'll say 6.5.
My guess is 1.3 mil.
Yeah, and I would go like 2.3 million.
In what?
In Minnesota.
Oh, people?
Yeah.
Okay. I think it's 6. I legitimately do.
6 million people in Minnesota.
No, am I way off?
6 million.
Wait, did you ask this question and not
yes.
know the answer to
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
All right. Here we're going to invite in our guest host. How many people live in the state of Minnesota?
In 2020, the population of Minnesota was 5,706,494.
Dude, I'm way off.
Wow, I was being super cheeky earlier and said
Yeah, you're
6, just meaning
Like
6.
six people.
but 6
like
million.
Well,
That's-
because you said at least 6,
Which
and
is
I'm like
factually
he's,
true.
He's technically correct.
Sometimes we struggle at trivia.
Yeah, it's
That wasn't trivia. That was math.
In other news, the Bent Paddle Canna Lounge is no longer with us.
yeah. That was some pretty big news. That was the first sort of big Minnesota cannabis lounge.
Beer collab,
Yeah.
offshoot, lounge. Yeah, and we're still not seeing lounges legally or viably operated.
Mm-hmm.
What's hanging up on that? Like what? Why is that such a hurdle right now?
I would say licenses is the biggest thing people are worried about right now, because serving and insurance is not worth it on the hemp side.
Okay.
So you have to be full spectrum in your offerings.
Yeah, if you want to
Which-
serve hemp for on-site consumption right now, you need a liquor license. So breweries had this unique sort of...
That was my question. I was like, okay, what put Bent Paddle in this position that they're like,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't know what I don't know. And
That and some CBD beverages.
yeah, okay.
Duluth being up there for a long time, their growth allowed them to gain more space, and
I mean, yeah, they are a staple of that community.
yeah.
Well, so I just wanted to share, we got 3 graphs along the side that we're going to read the numbers out for those following along at home. Americans who have consumed cannabis, 2013 to 2024, we've got that going from 7% up to 15%. Americans who have reported trying cannabis from 1969 to 2024, going from a measly 4% to a 47%.
The 69.
Yeah, 1969, only 4%. And then we've got Americans that support the legalization of cannabis. In 1969, it was slightly more than 11%, and now it's at 68% of Americans that support legalizing cannabis.
It is a fascinating plant.
It is for sure. Well, guys, speaking of cannabis financial numbers, we actually learned some really interesting things. So it's quarter time, when businesses that are publicly traded have to report. How is their business doing? We here in Minnesota have 2 legal medical dispensaries. Both are publicly traded companies. And we learned some interesting data from each that we wanted to bring to our podcast today, because GTI, the owner of RISE here in Minnesota, and Vireo, the owner of Green Goods here in Minnesota, have both now officially entered the hemp business.
Are you familiar with convertible secured notes?
Oh, yeah. So I've learned a lot about them over the last about 12 hours since putting this together. And
It's interesting.
yeah, in essence, they're buying the ability to buy into this company. And the part that really, so let's sort of break it down. So GTI is now a sort of partial owner of Agrify, which is a publicly traded company. They do cannabis hardware and software and all that kind of stuff.
You can look them up. AGFY.
Exactly. So they, GTI went to them, gave them a big boatload of money, and then also has the 3 heads of the board of directors of GTI, now the head of the board of directors for Agrify. So sort of a merging of technically still 2 separate ones. But people have speculated that this acquisition came partially because Agrify is already on the NASDAQ, already traded in America.
Yeah.
GTI not yet there, just on that Canadian exchange.
You
So-
can't buy GTI.
Not yet.
No, but this would make it enticing.
Yeah, for sure. So the reason that we're talking about this purchasing of Agrify and GTI is because Agrify just recently purchased the hemp beverage maker Double or Nothing, which makes the Senorita brand of hemp beverages.
Never heard of it, but yeah.
Yeah, me neither. But it's crazy seeing how many different brands exist out there nationally that are doing this kind of stuff.
They're in 9 states already.
Yeah, and they made themselves worthwhile of being acquired by this larger technology company that now is also a hemp distributor.
That's hella cool.
Yeah, so GTI now partially in that hemp industry. We'll continue to see those senior-rated beverages expand. Maybe we'll see them in, RISE dispensaries here in Minnesota. They can technically sell hemp products, so it would make sense for them to sell their own hemp products.
Yeah, and GTI is a major player here. They're one of the 2 medical cannabis operators, and they have a sizable foothold in Minnesota.
Yeah. So that came out in early November from public data of acquisitions of companies, from these trading of notes. The reason that we talked about it being quarterly reporting time is because Vireo, the other Minnesota processor, Green Goods, whatever you want to call them, they've reported a wonderful $4.9 million loss in the third quarter. A lot of really interesting financials. They also are producing about 25% more cannabis here in the state of Minnesota, trying to gear up for adult use.
They are.
It was interesting seeing those numbers come out of there. They just got $10 million that can help them continue to expand in Minnesota's adult use industry.
If you lose $4.9 million in a quarter, it makes sense to get $10 million.
Yeah, it's helpful. It's really, really helpful to keep getting new money, especially if you can't make money. So the reason that we're talking about
10 years in the game.
Yeah.
This is Donald Trump's America,
This is
folks.
incredible.
Hey, bet on Vireo.
Bet on Vireo because they now, through their high AF, that's HI asterisk AF.
Excuse me? Did you just swear at me?
I did. And their Boundary Waters brand, which people can get in dispensaries here in Minnesota.
I like that brand. I like that. Yeah. That brand's better. The High AF did not impress me at all at Legacy Cup. It was a flop. It was bland for a company that well funded to come into the hemp space. It was not embarrassing, but it was bland. And so money doesn't buy cool, but money doesn't buy you style.
Ooh, all right, there we go.
You can't buy swag.
You can't buy swag.
I made this myself.
I like it. I like that a lot.
10 years ago.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, swag.
You can't buy swag, but you can make it.
You can't force cred. I don't know. What other
street cred.
Yeah, what else we got?
You can't buy Riz.
You can't squeeze the lemon.
Shout out to Armstrong Cooper.
Armstrong Cooper. Oh man, I wonder what the weed scene is like there these days.
It's probably Golden Valley, it's
probably really bad because legalization makes sure that kids can't buy cannabis. Support legal cannabis products. Crazy to see 2 medical producers here in Minnesota now continue to
They grew 4,000 pounds. They grew 4,000 pounds of cannabis.
4,000 pounds here in Minnesota. We heard a little bit about the early days of what it was like for the company that is now owned by GTI here in Minnesota to start growing in like temporary facilities.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to see that continue to grow into the huge market that we have today. And how much of that flower will be distributed to other stores? It was interesting hearing the CEO say that we continue to build inventory ahead of Minnesota's adult use launch, which may impact the velocity of inventory. They're going to be going through a lot of inventory.
Because they got $10 million. So they're going to take $10 million and they're going to impact velocity of inventory.
We'll see.
Near term. When will they open? Will they open first? I think there's a chance that they could open in March.
They definitely have the products that they need.
Yeah.
Well, more to watch on that. I guess, we keep talking about the OCM, keep talking about the work they're doing on that licensure side. I'm so curious to see as we come into the new year what this all ends up shaking out like, because within 45 days, we'll know who has the first rounds of licenses, at least the pre-approval. Within 200 days, we'll probably know a lot more.
20 to 40 days. Stay tuned to the Northern Lights pod.
Well, before we go, I do have one more story that I have to bring here. And I told you guys I wouldn't get political, but I do have one more. Donald Trump has made a new cabinet appointment in charge of regulating federal cannabis policy. Aaron Dupree. Oh, no. Oh, that's not. No. The reason that I wanted to mention that is Aaron Dupree made news again this week, launching a new cannabis podcast.
It's called Higher Ground with Kimberly Perrine and a third mic that we're going to be seeing. By the time this podcast comes out, you'll be able to watch and listen to the Higher Ground podcast.
Oh, yeah. Now, there is an event, guys. the day that we're recording this, going on tonight.
It's happening right now.
A launch party for this podcast. Episode 1, you could go and listen to for only $40. Yeah, it's welcome to the world of making podcasts. I'm excited to see how many people pay $40 to come and listen to episode 1.
I have an idea for you.
Tell me.
A little bit later.
Offline.
Well, I thought it was cool to see Erin has updated her bio. We've long heard of her as former OCM appointee, and now it is Erin Dupree, self-described as a business consultant, cannabis coach, travel agent, organic CBT advocate, and professional networker.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It's a lot, but I relate to it.
Yeah. I also just gotta throw in this as well. There's a newsletter that we follow, brought this story to light, that also included that her background is also in kitchen remodeling and consulting and running a cleaning business, which is, not bad experience, but did that make you qualified to tell people how to run a dispensary? She had the job for less than 24 hours?
I think that's the last time I really remember Tim Walls being involved with the Minnesota Cannabis Program.
Oh, we got to throw in the wah, wah, wah sound for that, because hopefully we hear some more action on that soon, because
come on the podcast.
Come on the podcast. Tim, we'd love to have you on.
We'll talk about it.
Well, we're going to take a short break here. When we get back, we've got an interview with Curtis White, and I'm excited for us to jump in a little bit more on that. And then when we come back, at the end, we've got Tanner's chirp tasting and our high notes. So stick around all the way to the end. We'll be right back.